Evening, everybody. I hope you all have had a great day. And the ones who are just starting their day, good morning. Here today, we are to the fourth webinar of our Transformation Week series. And the topic for today is clean coaching. And we have our dear family, Ramesh Malya. Ramesh is a dynamic professional with over 25 years of experience in stakeholder management, project management, supplier management, and application design in the banking and financial services industry. He is also an ICF, ACC, and a PCC trained coach from Coach to Transformation. He has also contributed to various mergers and acquisitions from a technology integration perspective
ये
and
लोग कहाँ से चले गए?
तो यहाँ से आगे सामने से इधर से आगे रास्ते
और रास्ता
I would request all of you to please mute yourselves so we can have a very smooth session today. So back to Ramesh Malya. Integration perspective and has exposure to multiple risk management frameworks, including project, conduct, supplier, and outsourcing risks. And today he is the host for us. Over to you, Ramesh Malya.
Hey, thanks, Aishwarya. Thanks for the good introduction. And whenever you say, right, I'm talking to my tech team to get back, I get goosebumps because that's the life I'm living all the time, right? Given I'm running technology, all the time something goes wrong, and then we are trying to solve for it. Welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And I'm really excited for this session on clean coaching. It's a very a topic which is very close to my heart. This is something I've been consciously working on myself, and I'm so lucky to have Philippe here, who's going to take us through this topic. A quick introduction on Philippe. He's a master certified coach with 18 years of experience in individual and team coaching. He is based between Europe and Africa, and is really passionate about personal, professional development, and multiculturalism is what he specializes in. Um, I looked at this number. He has more than 5,000 hours of coaching, and I'm thinking like, when will I ever get there? Over to you, Philip. Really excited to hear from you, learn from you. Over to you.
Thank you, Ramesh. And I'm very pleased to be invited to speak about a subject that I very much like, which is clean coaching. Two considerations. The first one is, how did I discover clean coaching? I'm a member of the chapter of ICF in Belgium. And for the 10 years of ICF Belgium, we invited a certain number of speakers. And a lady came there, she's Wendy Sullivan, and she spoke about the clean language. And she's also one who wrote a book about the clean language. I will give you the reference at the end of the presentation. And she trapped with me. I will explain later that. So she asked a question and I gave the wrong answer. So that was my first contact and learning with the clean language. Clean language being the technology used to make clean coaching. So sometimes you will hear me saying clean language when we will speak of the concept, and clean coaching is when we speak of our profession as coach and using the concept of clean language in our coaching, to just make it clear. So the first consideration was, how did I get into it? And the second one is, I'm also a trainer for future coaches. And one of the questions which I hear very often from them, or one of the remarks I hear from them very often, is, sometimes I don't know what question to ask. I'm in front of my client and I don't know what to say. So that's something that we hear very often from beginning coaches. And clean language and clean coaching is also an answer to that question. You always have something at hand that you can ask to your client by using the methodology of the clean language. I will share my screen. Just 1 second. Here is it, and that's the program. That's it. So the concept of powerful questioning is hidden into the competencies of the coach between listening and raising awareness for the client, so that you have the principles of questions are now between those two competencies. But anyhow, we can keep it powerful questioning, understand it. How do I ask questions that makes the client think and create new ideas, new concepts, new way of seeing the world? That is a powerful question. And I would like to invite you all to a first experience in clean coaching or in clean language. I don't know if maybe you need a little pen or something like that to take a personal notes, but that's not mandatory. My first question is, in your life or in your coaching, what would you like to happen? Please think to that question and for a few seconds now, and choose for yourself what you would like to happen. Once you have this idea, you can choose for this thing that you would like to happen. You can choose a keyword. For example, I can choose the keyword, I want to be a good coach. So my keyword is good coach. So what is yours? Once you have this keyword, you can simulate the same question as mine by replacing good coach by your own target, your own wish, your own expectation. The question is, what kind of good coach is this good coach? So you can replace the word good coach in the sentence by your own word. What kind of good coach, replace good coach, is this good coach?
I can
think
see the audience replying a non-judgment.
if they are willing to reply or to write in the chat, it's welcome. But that's more a personal exercise.
Okay.
Those who wants to share are welcome, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
So once you have this question, take the time to think at the answer that you would give to that question. What kind of good coach is that good coach? I'll leave you 10, 15 seconds to think about what is your answer to the question. You have the time to think about what is my answer. The next question I would ask you is, what else is there about the good coach? Replacing again good coach by your own target. What else is there about good coach? So with this exercise, you already used the clean language, which are some of the major questions we find when we learn about clean language. If you have some feelings or discoveries that you did or new ideas you have or whatever, please put a word into the chat to say, this is how I did live this exercise. What did it bring to me? What is the gift of these 3 sentences? You can write that in the chat. I see many interventions already. Clarity, focus, stillness, clarity, digging deeper, enabling to focus and imagine, make me think hard, personal introspection, simplicity, clarity. Nice. We are more than 100 here, and I think each of you was able to find personal answers with standard questions. That's the funny thing with the clean language, is that this language is very formal. There are sentences which are ready to be asked to the client, but everyone can create his own story into it. And if you look at the questions that were asked, and I will put those questions in front of you, you can see that there is no direction given to you when you are thinking about this problematics or a situation. And that is the good strength of the clean language. Give you a simple example. If you have your client, let's think a situation. The client wants to have a raise in his salary, and he has an appointment with his boss, and he's in front of the door to go and ask for the salary raise. What is the question? You are building that with the client in a coaching session. What is the question that you will ask at that moment to your client in front of the door of the manager? What is the question that you will ask? If you have an idea, don't hesitate to write it in the chat. But there is one risk, is that you ask to the person, and now what will you do? And if you ask, what will you do? You're asking for actions. You're asking for answers like, I will knock on the door, I will open the door, I will go sit, and I will say this, and I will. So we will have actions. If you ask the same question as the one I asked at you a few seconds ago, and know what happened, simply, you can receive answers in that direction. The person can say, I have my knees shaking from fear, my breath is very short, I'm all white, pale from the perspective of speaking with my boss about my salary, I have wet hands, whatever. You can all kind of answers, and I can also have answers. These are about the feelings, but you can also have answers about the thinking. I'm repeating myself, what are my arguments, which one I would like to give in the meeting. So that's the thinking. And you can also have pure actions. That's the client who will decide what he will tell as an answer to your question, and know what will happen. Or what happens now. Very simple question. So these ways of asking questions, they are the powerful questioning in general, help the people to make the changes that they want in their lives. All of you which has been studying coaching, learned to ask questions that make the client think and eventually change things or evaluate in his life and growing. Second thing is that a good question provides to the coach and the client more information about the client, the way the client thinks, and also the way the client acts. And also, don't forget it, what are the kind of feelings and emotions that the client is living. But that improves also the communication and the comprehension. And if we go deeper into the way of doing the session with the client, we will go in direction selected by the client as a goal for the session. Are there any questions for the moment, Ramesh? Or?
Any questions anybody has? I was thinking, Philip, when you started off, right? You started off with saying that how often do we think I'm out of questions when I'm sitting in front of the client, and from there, just couple of simple questions, you've been able to pull out so many thoughts, feelings from so many people on the call. I think it's pretty powerful in that sense.
It is very. We will see later how to start a coaching session and how to help the coach to define the goal of the client, which is one of the challenges that young coaches have very often. How do I go and define the goal of the session? We will see that the clean language will very much help to do that kind of things with more details and more information. And we already saw the 3 questions. What wants to happen? What kind of this is there, and what else is to be said about it?
Yeah.
So the clean language has a difference with the powerful questioning, the classical power questioning, without having the protocols linked with the clean language. The clean language brings a richer source of creativity. By the fact we don't give a direction to the client, he has the choice to go also and take the responsibility to choose the way the client will go. One of the marker of the PCC coach says the client and the coach work together in defining the direction they will go. It's not the coach who is defining the direction. And with the clean language, it is much easier to leave the client deciding the direction he wants to go and for which one he wants to be responsible. So that gives them also the permission to make choices for themselves. By the fact we don't give any information in the question, any direction in the question, the client has the way to use his uniqueness. If the client is somebody who is more directed to emotions, he or she can speak of emotions. When I say a client, it's general. I don't want to ignore that there are many ladies as clients also. So forgive me for, as there are 2 words in English. So it's we have the same in French. So it's something which I have to pay attention to that. Also, the uniqueness of the client is also appearing in the way of answering questions. When we use the clean language, while the client shows himself what capacities, what quality, what strengths he has to answer the question. We speak each other's language. If you ask, what kind of good coach is this good coach? You will receive a lot of information, and I will be able to use the same words as the one of my clients to go further in the relationship. So we will speak each other's language. We will learn from the language of the client and the way the client is using the words. And it's very flexible. Just a little reminder. When you are the coach, you're also the questioner. You're the one asking questions to your client. We should not forget to first listen very carefully. That's one of our capacity as a coach, is to be listening and having the patience to have the client expressing himself or herself completely, not going too fast in asking the next question. Leave the client speak, and silence is one of the questions which is very powerful also. The second thing, don't forget that our opinions, assumptions, it's not the client. We don't have to use our assumptions and opinions to create questions. And thanks to the clean language, we don't have the opportunity to do it. The question is so broad that we cannot influence the question by our own opinion. We will explore the words, and we will see also that we'll most specifically explore the metaphors of the client. Hmm? It's this is one of the strengths that we should develop as coaches, to hear when a client uses a metaphor and explore the metaphor. Here we will even suggest the client to give a metaphor. We'll ask the client to give a metaphor. We'll see later how we do it. But metaphors will play an enormous role into the clean language. And if you look at the book I was showing a bit earlier, the subtitle, I don't know, it's a bit complex with the background. The subtitle says, Revealing Metaphors. So clean language, revealing metaphors and opening minds. That shows the importance of metaphors. And we will, in the second part of this presentation, we will speak about metaphors very much.
Philip, we have a few questions in the chat box.
Yes, please.
Can I take them?
Yeah.
Great. So Yasmin is saying that it would be great to know how to be comfortable with silence and how clean coaching can be applied to these silent moments.
Okay. How to be comfortable with the silence? It's maybe easy to say, but it's not having intentions for the client. We have the only intention that we have is to be at the service of the client, at the speed that the client likes, not at our speed, not at our way of doing things. To be at ease with silence, there is only one way to do it, is probably to train yourself in being silent. And being silent by observing your client, the subtle movements in the face and the body language of your client will show you that he is still thinking, that there is maybe more to be said, and just wait for it. Just wait for it. And if it doesn't come, okay, after a certain time, you will see also the body language of the client will say, what is your next question? So it's really training yourself onto it. Yeah.
Great.
And what is the link with the clean language? In clean language, by the fact we ask very simple questions, short and simple questions, we are almost forced to wait. Ask only one question, short, and wait. Leave the client. Sometimes the client is surprised. If the client says, I would have to develop my self-esteem. And you ask, what kind of self-esteem is that self-esteem? The client cannot answer immediately. It takes time to understand the question, to prepare an answer, and maybe not in one time. It will develop itself in several sentences, and then there might be silence that can help the client to go further. Well, for the silence, is there another question?
Yes. Yasmin, I hope Philip answered your question. Moving to the next one. Asit, what is the difference between clean language and brief to the point? Are they the same?
And the other one is brief to the point.
Yes.
I cannot answer. It's a concept I don't know really, so it's a bit difficult for me to answer on that point. Maybe Ramesh, you have another idea on that? I don't know, as you've been interested in clean language also.
Yeah, so I think the question Asit is asking, right, in the sense, it doesn't matter whether your question is to the point or you're elaborate. It is, I think my thinking is allowing the client the space and making sure client's perspective is brought out rather than the coach's perspective being pushed on the client. I think that's what the subtle difference is. It doesn't matter whether it's a short, long, one-word question, two-word question, powerful, non-powerful question. That's what I think, Philip, in my
Okay. Thank you for answering. But it was not clear for me what the content of the question was. Is there another one?
Yes. What is the difference between clean language and non-violent language?
Oh, it's a different concept. It's a different concept. Non-violent language has an intention. Clean language doesn't content an intention in itself. It's a way to organize the relationship with the client wordingly, and in the words and the way of speaking. So it's but there is not the same intention as taking care of people in difficulties for violence and those kind of things, or disputes or conflicts. It might be done with clean language also, but that's not the intention of the clean language. The intention of clean language is to offer the client a maximum of opportunities to express himself or herself, to come with a maximum chances of what is he deeply thinking, what is the deep creativity that the client can use, and so the intention is totally different. But maybe it's good to say, if you have a coaching session of 1 hour, and you know you have several knowledge at your disposal. You have the non-violent conversation, you have the other things like emotional intelligence or whatever. You have all kinds of things that you hand, and clean language also. And depending on the phase of the moment in the conversation with your client, you will use one or another one. I never saw a session of 1 hour completely using clean language. Or maybe some therapists do it, but we as coach, we don't do it. But it helps at certain moments to open the discussion with the client on something wider, to have a more broader view on the world and so on. But not necessarily during the complete session. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Philip. I think those were all the questions right now.
Okay. So just for little remembrance, 2 important questions. It's what kind of an X you replace by a keyword that you found from the client, or that you asked the client to formulate, and what else is there. So you see, it's deepening questions. These questions are going asked there to dig deeper in what's happening for the client. And sometimes you can even a third one that says, and what? No, what else? And more? What can you tell more? If you feel that there is still something to be said. So it's to go deeper and deeper into the thinking of the client. And that helps certainly in coaching to deepen the relationship, and that the client goes deeper into what are the motivations, what are the difficulties, whatever the direction the client is going. Should not forget that coaching is done for strong people that wants to develop new projects and new ideas and acquire new competencies. And we know that it's mainly the human factor that plays a big role into this. Who are you is much more important than what can you do. And the clean language is easy for going deeper into who are you. We can compare the different kind of questions, and maybe this answer also one of the questions we just had a few minutes ago. If we look at the type of questions, a closed question, do you like ice cream? Yes or no? An open-ended question, what are you going to do about this new car? Then you will receive a certain number of actions. While you say, what are you going to do? In the clean language, you ask what kind of, and I take back my example, what kind of good coach is this good coach? You leave the answer totally open. It can be a good coach can be somebody who was successful in the studies. A good coach can be somebody who has a lot of empathy. A good coach is somebody who is thinking deeply to the service of his clients. Whatever. Your client can go in any direction to go and be specific and offer you specific information the way they are as client, not by your direction that you choose. And that's the very important aspect of these different kind of questions. Just a little remark. Sometimes in coaching, you ask a closed question and the client answers as it was an open question. Did you live this? Hmm? And when your client answer you, like if it was an open-ended question, he is using the confidence capital that is between you and him. He's saying, oh, I have to make a translation. It is not a closed question. It is an open-ended question, which is hidden into a closed question. I accept it and I will give my answer. But if this happened too often, you are breaking a little bit the confidence and the security that the client can feel when you are working together. But now saying that, the question which I asked it in the beginning, what else is it to say about X? The pure therapist using clean language ask it in the form of a closed question. Is there something else to say about this? Why? And I asked it, I was a bit surprised by that when I was studying, and I asked it to one of the specialists of clean language, why do they use a closed question instead of using an open-ended question? And the answer is that this allow the client to say, no, there is nothing else to say. It is true that if we ask an open-ended question, we give a certain number there and we want an answer. So we are giving a little bit of direction. So it will not be a failure if you use a closed question when you're asking for deepening. Is there more to say about this subject? Just thinking.
Philip, sorry, if I can interrupt here. One thought is coming up for me. I have personally been in the situation where I've asked this kind of open-ended questions, and more than often the answer comes, I don't know. And that I don't know continues. How do you sort of handle these kind of situations?
Well, the clean language offers us another question, which is very easy and open for the client, is what would happen? And the answer can be, I need to think about it to know what would happen. It's very different than that I don't know. And maybe it's a way to avoid that kind of answer by using the clean language questions. And if the client tells me, I don't know, why not the question, what kind of I don't know is this I don't know? Why not? Accept the fact that the client says, I don't know. What does it mean really for him? I don't know. No, because we don't speak the same language. My native language is French. You hear that certainly. Going to the fact of speaking of metaphors, I like you all, the one listening today, to give us metaphors that you would use. I give you some examples, and then you can think about it for yourself or some metaphors in the chat. For example, in this project, we are at a crossroad. Or look how far we have come. Or where are you? And when we ask where are you, it's not the location, but it's where are you, at what level are you, did you come in the work? So would you please try to find and write some metaphors into the chat that would come from your own language. They might be very different from language to language. So I open the chat in front of me so that I can see what is coming.
Any questions? Yes, we have. Madhumita is asking, What is non-violent language and how can you use it when you find something repulsive in the client?
Yeah. This not violent language. How can you use it when you find? Yeah, the violent language is more than just a language. It's also the way of processing difficulties between people. It's a way of processing conflicts, for example. It's using the non-violent process. It's using the same techniques as a coach, in fact, by asking questions. There is not so much difference, and I think coaches could go very easily to non-violent conversation if they accept to work into conflict situation. So the process looks similar. The only way is it's more difficult. While generally you have two persons, which are considered in when there is a conflict. It's not only one person. So the people who learn to manage these conflict situations, they are using a technique which is called the non-violent language. But when they are facing with a group of with two persons, that is the minimum. So it's not a one-to-one process. So did you see some, thank you for the answer there from Charlie about nonviolent language coming from nonviolent communication methodology. Thank you for the information. Fish out of water, yes. What kind of clean metaphors? Overcoming challenge and are like climbing mountains. Yeah. How do you intend to pluck that fruit? Okay. I think that's my lowest hanging fruit. It flow like a river. Climbing a mountain. Yeah, you see, but the metaphors, you will find them a lot in the conversation. It's something that we use in every language to use an image instead of having a flat and clear description of situations. I don't know if it translates well, but in French we say the arms are falling from my body, for example, when things are very surprising. And if you speak French, everyone will understand that expressions. My arms are falling, but in fact you keep your arms. So it's really an image of things that might be happening. So the metaphors are really something very, very deep. But we use a lot of metaphors in our way of speaking. If we say it rains all the time, most probably it doesn't rain all the time. It's just an expression that says it rains a lot, but not necessarily 24 hours on 24 hours. Well, the example can I find for you is this. It's a bit more complicated for me by translating things, but there are some examples which are translations from when you say, I don't think this relationship is leading anywhere. In fact, I create a metaphor. The relationship doesn't put us on the road by walking or running or driving. And we say we go nowhere. But we don't have a destination, in fact. And if I say we don't have a destination in a relationship, I'm already giving a metaphor. Having a destination in a relationship is something which is not physically right, not physically true. Are there some other ones in the metaphors? I see new messages. I'm between the devil and the sea, deep sea. Yeah, great. And riding a roller coaster. Yes. It's like a giant ship. Yeah. It's a Herculean task also. It's a metaphor, which is also using, on top of that, is using the Greek god Hercules to define the task. Adding fuel to the fire, yeah, that's right. In French, we would say add oil to the fire. So from one language to another one, it can be a bit different. Feel a weight on me. Yeah, it's also many metaphors are calling on our body. It's heavy on my shoulders. I have a headache with this situation. It's not necessarily physically a headache, but a wall in front of me. Yes. In my mind, eyes, it's a canvas. Aiming for the stars. Yeah, sure. Excellent. Yeah, so I see Elena say some expression in Italian, my arms fell off. It's the same as in French, les bras m'en tombent. So probably the Latin languages have some metaphors that might be similar in the different Latin languages. Let's go now a bit further with a metaphor, and you think of the metaphor, and with this metaphor, you ask yourself the two questions that we learned. So first thing, you think to a metaphor that would represent the situation that you are living. For example, I take something, I'm still very far to be a good coach. The very far is a metaphor. Then I will ask myself, what kind of very far is this very far? So if you have for yourself a metaphor, you can ask yourself with the metaphor, what kind of is this metaphor? So when the clients give a metaphor, you can use the question, what kind of, using the metaphor of the client to deepen the way of the metaphor is there. And we will see in a few seconds that the metaphor is also an image of the reality. Technically, we will say that the metaphor has the same structure as the reality, which is described by the metaphor itself. So if I say, I'm still very far of being a good coach, the very far as the metaphor, it represents also the time, the work, all kinds of things to be done to reach the subject. So it has the same structure. That's why when we ask the metaphor, we ask the subject hidden behind the metaphor. And the second question that you can ask yourself is there something else to say about this metaphor? And we should not forget to think, what does the customer want? The client wants. One point also, and that's an attention that we should have as a coach systematically, is what is my intention in this situation? Do I want to stay clean? Or do I want to influence? It's also something where we have to pay attention. Did I create a clean contract with my client that gives me the permission to obtain information and that gives me the permission to help them to change or evaluate? So I will not use clean questions with somebody where I don't have this contract. If I'm not in agreement that we work together as partners to go and obtain results in a specific project or in a specific development, I don't have the permission. I don't have the permission to ask questions, for example, about the metaphors that the client is using. I can follow it, but not asking the question, what kind of metaphor is that metaphor? if I don't have a contract? And finally, am I able to work constructively? And if not, what should happen? And you see here the strength of that question, what should happen? What should happen with me? What should happen in a relationship with my client? What should happen with the client? So we have already in this question 3 possibilities of answers. Okay, so I just say to you with the, and that's the wording of the clean language, even with a metaphor, you can get a name of the metaphor and an address for the metaphor. And the name and the address you receive with these 3 questions. And I go back to my good coach questions. While being a good coach is also a kind of metaphor. It is a content of all kind of concepts. So what kind of good coach is this good coach? Is an information. Is there anything else about good coach? And where is good coach? The question seems a bit strange. Where is good coach? But it's also calling on the metaphor. Where is that metaphor that represents good coach? Is it far from me? Close to me? Is it on the side? Is it in my head and no place else? Whatever. Where is it? That concept of good coach. Any questions on the metaphors for the moment?
There are
And thank you for those who gave, thank you to those who gave information about the non-violent language and non-violent confrontations. Yeah. And now about the questions.
Yes. So there are a few questions that I can read right away. Sudarshan, how to use metaphor in clean language? I'm not getting it.
Okay, so the metaphor is you can look at as an object that is present in the relationship between you and your client, and you will ask questions about the object. So if the client says, I feel like a heavy weight, you can say, where is that heavy weight? And maybe the client will answer, on my belly. And what wants this heavy weight to happen? And so on. So you can ask questions like this object was present between you and the client. So that's the way of working with metaphors. And we use the same questions with the metaphor as we use with other aspects of the relationship and the conversation that we have with the client. And we can ask, for example, I feel the situation like a ball that is escaping from my hands. Then you can ask, what size? Does this ball have a size? And it will be a small ball, a big, large ball. Does this ball have a color? It's also giving more reality to the metaphor. Where is that ball? What wants this ball to happen? So you can use the metaphor as an object which is there, representing a concept, representing an idea, representing a pain of the client, or representing a pleasure of the client, whatever. But you can use it like if it was an object present that you need, from which you need the description, the more detailed description. Another question?
Yes. Ankita and Sudarshan, I hope your questions are answered.
Yeah.
Moving to next.
I see the time. We still have 10 minutes. Is it right?
10 minutes. Yes, we do have to.
I like to make you do an exercise before we leave. For this exercise, you need or a handful of coins or a pen and a paper. So whatever you have, a handful of coins or a pen and paper, it works for the two situations. So if you have a pen and a paper, it's nice. With the coins, you will represent the members of your family. And if you don't have coins, you do circles and you represent the members of your family in small circles. For example, the head, the body, the legs, the arms, whatever you want to do to represent the members of your family with little circles or with coins. Take a few seconds to do that. I will stop the sharing of the screen for a few moments so that I see more people on the screen. So I see at least 25 of you on the screen. When you have done with the sketch of your family, you just show your thumb or whatsoever so that I know that some of you have finished this representation of the family, though at least the one who are using the webcam. It is done. My next point is take one member of your family away from the design. What do you feel when I asked that? And write it in the chat. What do you feel when I ask you to remove somebody from your family and the representation you made of your family? I feel incomplete, sadness, sense of loss, rebellion, hesitation, it's not so comfortable, sad. Yeah. Confused. Yeah, it's okay. He passed away some years ago. It's a different situation. How can I? Pain. Am I harsh, distancing, painful? So you see the power of the metaphor. And in 2 minutes, I asked you to make a representation of your family with coins or little circles. And it became the real representation of your family. And when I ask you to change it, it becomes something very difficult to do. You cannot come back to the handful of coins. You cannot stretch the paper and put it in the bin. It's your family. And that's what this exercise is, to show you the strength and the power that metaphors have. And that's the reason why in clean language, we take the metaphors as a very strong point that represents what is the reality of the client. And let's go just as a conclusion by, again, I will share again my screen. Oops. Share the screen, and I will here. I will go a bit further. So what I was saying is that metaphor condense information and make things more tangible, and they represent the experience more fully than the abstract concepts. The family that you have sketched on the paper. Don't know what happened there.
Sorry, I think somebody's gone.
Yeah. Okay, but it's fine. With using the metaphor that allows us to think more deeply also, it's interesting by asking questions around the metaphor. So by asking questions about the metaphor, like if it was, as I said earlier, an object which is available for analysis and for understanding and represent the situation. I see the time is going up, so I go to one or two aspects. And for those who are interested, the clean language has been defined by a certain David Grove, who is a New Zealander and he's a psychotherapist. And he said, clean language accompanies the client's process while ensuring that his or her own meanings and resonances remain intact and uncontaminated by the therapist's words. What I explained in the beginning, if you say, what do you want to do? There is a question about actions. If I say, and now what will happen? Then I don't give any direction to what the client should answer. We can start a situation in coaching when we start by defining the goal of the client, which is the beginning of a session. We can ask this question after the client describes the situation he wants to discuss. You can say, and what would you like to see happen? As a question. And that will help the client to go deeper into a goal for the session. And if you then ask after that, what is there something else to say about this? And what kind of, and so on. So you will deepen the question. We can also continue, but I will not go too deep into this. We don't have the time. You will receive the slides and here, and if you are interested, you can read and see eventually. Well, there are one point is interesting is how do we suggest the client or do we request the client to present a metaphor that represents the situation? So the question is, for example, and a good coach is like what? Another one, a stronger self-esteem is like what? That's an invitation for the client to describe a metaphor and to continue to speak about it. And you can also use, and I will go into more basic questions, not relatively quick. So you can have questions for moving in the time. So what happens next? Or if you want to go back in time, what happens just before? So you can say, what happens just before a good coach? I've been done a lot of failures giving advice to my clients and afraid of starting a new relationship or whatever. You can also ask about and I said it already, about the metaphor of the client, if it has a size, if it, for sure you won't ask it if it doesn't fit with this question. But if the client says, it's like a heavy stone, then you can ask, and does it have a weight? And where is it? And how many stones could it be there? You can also ask for the age. And how old could this stone be? And those are just to give you examples that you can ask questions out of the metaphor. How far is it? And in which direction is this stone going, for example? And is this stone inside or outside? Okay, maybe we can close by some last questions. Well, I don't want to go too deep. There we are.
Anyone has any questions? Maybe they can put in chat or ask by unmuting.
I'm sorry I've been a bit long, but I can speak for hours of clean language with pleasures.
So there was one major question, Philip, that was,
Yeah.
what is the book for clean coaching? Kindly share the title, author. There
That's
you
a
go, Prashan.
Mhm.
Ranjani has been trying to ask this question. Is this clean language or clean coaching similar or connected to NLP concepts?
It's not connected with it. It's not. It's you have seen it. It's a way of asking questions, in fact. And this will complete what we learn as coaches, and it will complete the way that we know how to lead and conduct coaching conversation. For example, using the GROW process in a coaching conversation. But it will complete this. It will make your different phases of the coaching easier. Certainly, when you come to different, for example, if you feel that your client has real deep personal emotional difficulties to do a certain number of things or make a certain number of decisions, the use of clean language will help the client to express more what are his deep feelings and difficulties. But that will be a moment in your session. It will not be the complete session.
Anybody else has any questions? Please come on camera, unmute yourselves, and you can go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah. Any other questions? Or Charlie, maybe, yeah?
Yeah, thank you, Philippe, for... merci beaucoup. J'ai noté que tu es de Belgique, si je ne me trompe pas. So, a bit of French here. So, what I see is like clean coaching based on clean language. Probably, you will correct me, please. It's actually making sure we help the client explore his own world as he is stuck in somewhere. So it's not actually getting him out of his own world, but helping him to know all the intricacies of his own world, going through his own metaphors, taking him at face value, not reinterpreting what he says and things like that. That's what I took from the session. Am I right?
You can also ask questions to find the origin of the problematic of the client, and you can also ask questions to see what kind of new direction he would like to take in the future. If you ask to the client and know what's happened next, then you invite the client to think. And more specifically, if you ask that about the metaphor, then the client can come back from the metaphor to the reality and say, I now see what is the direction I can take for myself in the future. So it is more powerful than just knowing making an inventory, as I call it. But it goes deeper than that, is to know where do the material in the inventory come from and what can you do with it in the future. Yeah. Any other question? Don't see any hands raised. Can I stop the sharing? You have
Yes.
those who want the book have made the note. It's easy to find on Amazon.
Thank you so much, Philippe.
You're very welcome.
And thank you so much, all of you who have joined in today. And special thanks to our dear host, Ramesh Malya. Thank you so much, Ramesh, for coming in today and hosting us. And all of you, please register. Sorry. Yes, go ahead, Ramesh.
No. I said my pleasure. Thanks everyone for all the participation. And Aishwarya, over to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. So I've posted the CCU webinar link. Please go ahead and fill the form to receive your certificates. I have also made sure that all of you received the ones that you have not received. If you still haven't received, just drop a message to our reminder messages that you had received. So you have our number, so you can go ahead and message us. And Philippe, thank you so much. I think one part where you were explaining the metaphor and how it is utilized, I could actually think and go back to a coaching session that I was a client and my coach was asking me about that. And he digged deep into the part where I was referring to something, and it still works for me. It still helps me on a daily basis. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think all of us here took away a lot of things. So thank you so much for joining in today, Philip.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Do you want me to share the slides?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
Please.
Okay. I will send it to you.
Everybody, you will receive the recordings and the slides after the transformation week, not before that. Thank you so much. See you all tomorrow for the final Transformation Week webinar by Terry Pan. And I think Terry is right here. I just saw him. So you'll all be able to see him and experience him tomorrow. See you all. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.